The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went 13-4 last season. They were defeated by the LA Rams in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. They have a new head coach in Todd Bowles, who is going to be taking over for Bruce Arians, who stepped down to take a front office role with the Bucs. And out of all of the new head coaches going into this season, it's safe to say that Todd Bowles has the easiest job out of all of them. This is one of the best rosters in the NFL. You also have Tom Brady coming back for what pretty much should be his last year in the NFL. But hey, you never know. Tom Brady might just decide to run it back for 2 or 3 more seasons. I think that Tom Brady could end up playing football for as long as he wants to. But you do have some concerns on the offensive line, mainly center, because Ryan Jensen recently went down with a injury and he's pretty much going to miss a significant amount of time. So you have a question there at center. And center is one of the most important positions in the NFL, simply for the fact that your center is the quarterback of your offensive line. And 9 times out of 10, if you have a great offensive line, you have a great center as well. But outside of center, left tackle Donovan Smith is solid. We already know about Tristan Wirfs, who's already one of the best offensive tackles in the game. Shaq Mason at right guard. Now, wide receiver, you're absolutely stacked. You signed Julio Jones, even though you didn't really need him, but why not? You're probably going to have him starting on the outside, opposite side of Mike Evans. You slide Chris Godwin into the slot. It's just the rich get richer. And even before they signed Julio Jones, they had Russell Gage, who I felt was going to be an underrated free agency signing. Now, I don't really know what role Russell Gage is going to have in this offense now with the addition of Julio Jones. You also have Tyler Johnson. I mean, they're absolutely loaded. And my best case scenario for Tampa Bay is going to be 14-3. We know that the Buccaneers are going to be really good on offense. They're going to have one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. Leonard Fournette had a really good season for them. You also have rookie out of Arizona State, Rachaad White, who I like a lot. I think he could end up being their primary pass catching back in this offense. And then this defense is going to be better this season than what it was last year, because remember, the Buccaneers had a good amount of injuries in their secondary. So you're going to be fully healthy, which is going to boost up this defense. And then you have still a really good defensive line: William Golson, Vita Vea, Hakeem Hicks. You also have Joe Teron, who could end up having a breakout season for the Buccaneers this year as well, alongside Shaq Barrett. And we already know they have one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL with Devin White and Levante David. A question I have is Devin White going to improve in pass coverage? Because Devin White can do everything but cover at a really high level. So if he ends up improving his pass coverage slightly, then he could potentially end up being the best linebacker in the NFL, because there's not a single thing that Devin White can't do outside of coverage. So if his pass coverage improves, I think it's safe to say that he most likely will end up becoming the best linebacker in the NFL. So overall, when you look at this team, it's really hard to find any flaws and any weaknesses. And your main concern is going to be, what if Tom Brady ends up having father time finally catching up to him? Because we saw what happened to Peyton Manning in 2015. Father time kind of came out of nowhere, and he ended up retiring, winning a Super Bowl, but he wasn't playing at a high level. And you got to wonder if that's going to happen to Tom Brady. But even if it does happen, the Buccaneers have a good enough roster to carry Tom Brady if he ends up kind of having a huge regression this season. And my worst case scenario for the Buccaneers is 11-6. Okay, maybe Tom Brady has a little bit of some father time catch up to him this year, but even if that does happen, he still should play out a good enough level that the Buccaneers should be able to win no less than 11 games, because the defense is going to be really good. The run game is going to be there with Leonard Fournette, and even if Leonard Fournette gets injured, you have good enough depth behind him to step in and still produce at a high level. And on top of that, maybe Todd Bowles ends up improving as a head coach compared to the last time he was a head coach with the New York Jets. And he wasn't really all that bad when he was last a head coach in New York. So overall for Tampa Bay, I don't really see them having a bad year where they just fall off the map. This is one of the most complete rosters in the NFL, which is why I have them at 13-4 this season. They do have a really tough schedule. You have to play on the road in Dallas week 1. You got to play New Orleans. They always play the Buccaneers really tough. And on top of that, even though they do have a new head coach in Dennis Allen, he formerly was their defensive coordinator. He served as their DC for over the last couple of years. So the New Orleans Saints always have the recipe to slow down Tom Brady. Plus, they improved on the offense when it comes to the wide receiver position. You have Jameis Winston coming back fully healthy. That defense is still going to be incredibly good. So New Orleans potentially could be in the running for winning this division. You got to play Green Bay, Kansas City. You get to play Atlanta twice. You should take care of them. I don't think the Falcons are going to be all that great. You got to play Pittsburgh on the road. It's always tough to win on the road in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh doesn't really look like their offense is going to be all that improved compared to last year. You got to play Carolina, Baltimore, the Rams, which is pretty much going to be the game of the year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because really the question that we got to ask for Tampa Bay is, are they going to be able to get back to the Super Bowl this year? Because this is a roster that's really good. However, the Rams are also really good as well. And the Rams also are a team that has the recipe for being able to have success against Tom Brady, because we already know the blueprint to being able to slow down Tom Brady. You got to get in his face and you got to get consistent pressure on him. Now, before they go into their bye week, which is late in the middle portion of November, they got to play Seattle. And then after that, coming off their bye, they're playing Cleveland. Hopefully Deshaun Watson will be able to play in that game. We don't really know what's going on with him and his situation. You got New Orleans on a Monday night, San Francisco, Cincinnati. Then you close the season off playing the Cardinals on the road, Carolina, and Atlanta. So even though this is one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, you're playing Cincinnati, you're playing the LA Rams, you're playing some of the best teams in the NFL this year, this still should be a team that should be able to win 13 games, and they should have amongst one of the best records in the NFL. And I think they're probably going to end up vying for that number 1 overall seed in the NFC. The NFC conference, as I have stated several times throughout this podcast, isn't all that great outside of 3 teams, not counting the Buccaneers. You have the Packers and the Rams, but outside of that, it's pretty much anybody's guess who's going to end up becoming the other couple of teams to end up clinching their playoff spots and winning their respective divisions. So let me know your record predictions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down in the comment section down below.